What is up? This is Yahoo NBA Live. Pete McCarthy, Eric Lindquist on a Friday post All-Star break. Ready to get this thing all started up for real now. How are we doing on this Friday, Eric?
Oh, just doing lovely. Sleep deprived like you, feeling great like you. Everything's lovely. Yeah, I'm ready to rock. We're ready to talk a little Yahoo hoops. NFL out of the picture. Kind of crazy. I mean, the All-Star break was great. It was nice to have a little time off post Super Bowl, post craziness of NBA. Did you play anything other than there was no NBA or NFL. Did you play anything else over break?
NHL.
Yeah. How'd that go?
I like playing the showdowns, but for whatever reason this week I got wrecked.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange NHL week. I feel like this has been a successful week for me the last couple of years. This little interim, I only played one day actually in between, but felt like just paying attention to contests. It looked like some chalk got wrecked, which was kind of fascinating. Other than Austin Matthews, who just gets there every time.
Just does his thing. Yeah, I like playing the showdowns. I did really well. I built up. I think I hit again on like Super Bowl day. And then as soon as the Super Bowl ended, for whatever reason, I'm just run cold on that, which is just the way it goes. But, trying to get back there. And we got some NBA in the mix now. PGA, you got NASCAR started up now. Now you got the whole kit and caboodle all starting up as we hit kind of the off season, I guess, at Daily.
What does that even mean? I've heard it my whole life. What is a kit and caboodle?
Don't ask me this.
Tyler just got really excited. This must be a Texas thing.
Okay. Well, let's start writing in chats, and then we'll figure out the full meaning of kit and caboodle by the next 20 minutes. But you can tell it's NFL offseason because now I'm bringing the beard back. Now I'm going to get this thing fluffy. We're going to see how dramatic we can get this. It looks
it's
like
so fluffy. I'm going to die.
Oh,
well, no, mine is like minute. I'll shave tonight before we go. Maybe do something. We'll see if our dog allows us to. We got to tire him out here, I think, before we go out or do anything. So looking forward to the weekend.
We got to catch up to James Harden, by the way, making his debut with the Sixers. Fun. Yeah, that's a big one tonight. What are you expecting out of James Harden? First game, Philadelphia. What kind of role? I think that's going to be one of the big things that we're looking at here. His price on Yahoo certainly puts him in play.
Oh, big time. I will have a lot of James Harden. And, as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, it's kind of fun that he makes the debut against my team coming off of a big win yesterday. But I don't really know if it's fair that they get to play James Harden against us on a back-to-back. And they're professional athletes. Maybe they don't tire the same way, but like facing Joel Embiid and James Harden in a pick and roll sounds a lot less fun after you've played 36 minutes the night before. But considering Anthony Edwards didn't really play basketball yesterday, maybe he'll be ready to rock this time around.
That'll be good. He's got the like the memes now. He's got the fat suit off, ready to go. Hit it up with Joel Embiid, whatever it is, as he gets that going. Hey, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. And be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which are NBA ownership projections. You can dive back into the NHL with ownership projections. We've got UFC pro plays, as well as our podcast giveaway. Just head to our Awesemo podcast channel below. Give us a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included, and you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We're also excited to announce our new NBA props betting show, Locks Before Locks, which we have added to our daily schedule for 30 minutes before the NBA Deeper Dive every day. Head on over to our Odds Shopper YouTube channel for the best edges available on NBA player props straight from our experts. All right, so let's start diving into what we're looking at on Yahoo tonight. We'll start with the point guard position. Hey, Luka's on the board, $56. Always a guy that you got to keep in mind here. The boom bust tool doesn't mind him a whole lot. 50 plus points, the projection here, according to Awesemo. How are we liking Luka's matchup here for the Mavs?
Yeah, we just got done watching Luka at the tail end of last year go completely, the tail end of before the All-Star break, excuse me. It feels like last year here. Went completely bonkers. 77 fantasy points to a nice little stat line there before the All-Star break for Yahoo purposes. But $56, it's going to be hard to play a lot of him alongside James Harden. And I'm going to be prioritizing James Harden big time for $12 less at the shooting guard position. So, I mean, point guard, you're only going to have a limited amount of spend ups. And I think I'm looking at going a little further down the board. There are so many good mid-range point guard options. We will get to all of them here, but there's no question Luka Doncic has a ceiling, but even 60 fantasy points out of him here on Yahoo, you're paying up for nice things. You're paying well over 25% of your cap in order to get him. Now, we should have enough $10 plays as news comes in throughout the day here as well. We already have enough, $10 to $12 plays that I think are viable enough that if you really want Luka at 12%, you can absolutely make it happen. I'm just probably going to go elsewhere.
And if you go elsewhere, you talk about those mid-tier options that we could work our way to. You're looking at CJ McCollum at 32. Russell Westbrook's all the way down at $29. Cole Anthony, 25. Reggie Jackson, 23. He's been hot going into this second half of the season. Is that the class that you're eyeing at this point?
Yeah, I think the LeBron James thing is really, really weird. Left knee soreness coming off of an all-star game. I would be shocked if he didn't play today just because it was literally an all-star game, comes back. If he was actually hurt and wasn't able to play, that would be very strange to me. But this could also This could also just be a punted season. Well, I mean, Chris Paul played like 2 minutes and could have like shot it up lefty. That was really enjoyable to watch. What a scene. But Russell Westbrook at $29 would be outrageous if you don't have LeBron James out there. The timing of that news is really going to matter today. This is why you want to be checking out the Deeper Dive live before lock. I'll be on with Greg Ehrenberg today, and we'll be able to cover exactly what's going on with that situation, because if we don't have news by then, you're basically investing into Russell Westbrook either way, just because of how late that game is. It's on an island, 10 p.m. Eastern time. You don't really have the funds to get up to a Luka in that Dallas-Utah game earlier to it. Suppose you could find a way to get to CJ McCollum if you really needed to, $3 more. But if you land on Russell Westbrook without Anthony Davis, I don't think it's the worst thing on planet Earth, sub $30. So yes, Russell Westbrook will be a priority for me over on Yahoo, kind of either way. And if it doesn't end up working out, would it really shock anybody? No, he's been abysmal, but sub 25% for a guy that would be north of a 1.3, 1.4 fantasy point per minute producer without LeBron James on the floor, and still is locked into about 1.1. As long as he's in that closing lineup and has been decent. As bad as he's been, he's still a 1.12 Yahoo fantasy point per minute producer on the season. So definitely somebody to target.
Yeah, just because he's not Russell Westbrook of recent vintage doesn't mean he can't be a good fantasy player for you on a night like tonight, especially if LeBron's not going to be in there. How about on the other side, Reggie Jackson, just $23 coming off a 12 assist game for the Clippers. He's been able to score quite a bit. He's double figures each of his last 11 games. The assists are there. Not a big rebounder, but he has a couple of different ways of getting his way up there, and the boom bust tool loves him tonight.
Yeah, the boom bust tool loves him. I think he's a great play to be focused on. Reggie Jackson, around the board. I mean, DraftKings was strange. I talked with Rinpack last night. We do the NBA Slate Starter podcast. So my research always starts the night before. Then, you get up and you're putting it in this morning, and then I'll be on live before lock. So it's really kind of almost a close to a 24-hour cycle in terms of covering this. And my favorite guard from the get-go was Reggie Jackson, specifically FanDuel, where he's sub 7K there. It's just a broken tag. Even on DraftKings, I found myself getting to him. He has just kind of been revelatory, absent all of these other pieces. Paul George, of course, Kawhi Leonard this season. And now Norman Powell going to be out here for quite a long while. There's just nobody else who can carry the offensive load here. And Reggie Jackson is an easy click for me at $23. But unfortunately, he's very, very popular, which brings me up to Drillin' G in the chat there. Thanks for hanging out here with us. $25 Cole Anthony is a guy that I've really got circled. Everybody eats against Houston. Kevin Porter Jr. is about as interested in playing defense or being nice to his teammates as I am in sleeping. That's not very often right now.
Well, you're interested in it.
I mean, well, I'm very interested in it. I just don't do it. So there you go. Cole Anthony, $25. Easy click for me. One nice piece of news that we got, RJ Hampton, he was expected to be back. I thought you could maybe see a downtick of like 2-3 minutes to the workload here for Cole Anthony. But now that RJ Hampton's back to questionable, I'd kind of be surprised if he played here in this spot. We have him projected for around 31.75 minutes. I'm actually boosting him to around 34 minutes. He's popping up alongside Reggie Jackson in a number of my lineups. This is kind of why it's hard for me to get up to a Luka, because I get two of these mid-tier plays that are just so exceptional in my opinion, and him and Reggie Jackson. But if you told me in a tournament I was pretty chalky, I would just make that pivot pretty easily. $2 more, I'd find the money to get to Cole Anthony and move on with my day.
And if we jump back up towards the top, I imagine DeJounte Murray is kind of the same situation as Luka for you, with the projections aren't that different. The salary's about the same. Similar story.
You know, I have more interest, I think, in DeJounte Murray than Luka. That $6 is it's a big difference. It's a difference maker. Of course, 25% of your cap, meaning that you have $200 to spend. You're spending 25% of it on DeJounte Murray. That'd be comparable to, on a 50K site like DraftKings, you're spending $12,500, which basically only Nikola Jokic is at this moment in time. So DeJounte Murray, no question, he's expensive too, but that $6 is a big difference. And absent of all of these other cats, I mean, Derek White being shipped off cannot be overstated here for him being shipped off to Boston, because you have this opportunity for DeJounte Murray to be better than the 1.4 fantasy point per minute player that he's been on the entire season. Didn't have two very good games coming out of the break. And so I think, had he put up 60 spots, you'd be looking at him being somebody that people played in 15, 16% of lineups. And we've seen 60 plus fantasy points from him a number of times. We saw 77.5 4 games ago. I think if you put that one and flip-flop it with Luka, I think you're looking at pretty equal ownership on them. You kind of are as it is. So give me the $6 discount, and I will definitely get to some DeJounte Murray on Yahoo.
How about the lower end? If you prefer the mid-tier tonight, is there a reason to go to the low end? I know there's some more value guys at different positions tonight.
Yeah, it's really thin. If I tried to take a shot with anybody, I think Ish Smith is $10, and $10 can go a long way for your lineups. Neto's there at $12, garnering some attention as well. They're basically just in a timeshare with the point guard minutes for Washington. But if one guy plays substantially better, I mean, we saw Ish Smith play 27 minutes in that last game before break, whereas Neto played 21. Like, it's legitimately a timeshare between the two. But if Ish Smith gets going, which he totally is capable of doing, you can play a guy at $10 like him, who's right around 0.9 fantasy points per minute, new situation. Obviously, he's been on every team in the NBA, it feels like at this point in time, but we know his MO. He'll come off the bench, and if he gets hot, awesome. If he doesn't, you're screwed. And that's kind of the Terrence Ross syndrome, I suppose, would be the right, the kind of comp for him. So if you want to take that shot, go ahead. But there's such a strong, there's a drastic opportunity cost at point guard because of how good Reggie Jackson, Russell Westbrook, Cole Anthony, those three are standing out above the rest. But you will have to punt somewhere. So Ish Smith would be the guy for me.
Anyone else worth mentioning? Point guards?
LaMelo Ball. I mean, anytime LaMelo Ball suits up, I think he goes a little bit underappreciated, around a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy on the season, does everything well. And the big difference between a guy like him and Luka Doncic and DeJounte Murray compared to the rest of the point guard position is they all rebound the ball at an extremely great rate, which just increases their floor. And LaMelo Ball, he's got a floor compared to, those other top two studs I talked about. I mean, there's definitely some room for that to go down. Toronto's a tough matchup, but you get Fred VanVleet off the floor, there's not really going to be a true point guard. He's going to get a lot of Gary Trent defense. They've got a lot of size in Toronto, but that doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot here against LaMelo Ball, who just puts up fantasy points in a lot of ways. So at $42, sub 5%, he's definitely on my radar just because of ownership.
Check out LaMelo Ball slot in. See, you kind of have some tiers here with Luka, $6 ahead of DeJounte Murray, $8 ahead of LaMelo Ball. And then you can get to the mid-tier, those 20-something guys that you would talk about, Westbrook, Anthony Jackson, kind of breaking it down at that point guard position. Of course, get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there, like the NBA, with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our boom bust tool, lineup builder, and much more. And of course, if you're only looking to play NBA DFS, you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NBA packages for as low as $4.95 weekly. Please note that Fantasy Cruncher, that's an add-on. It can easily be added on with these packages at checkout, but is not included in the base packages. However, very valuable addition to your DFS arsenal for those looking to multi-enter contests. So stop guessing, start winning. join Awesemo Plus today. Are you ready for the meaning of kit and caboodle?
I am. Please give it to me in the most because you have such a beautiful voice. I just really want the dramatic reading.
Okay. Well, we'll do the best we can with this, but it's an old English term, 18th century. That's 1700s.
Yes, I'm aware how that word it goes back. Yes.
Kith means estate, so it's like your whole estate, everything one owns. And then soldiers in the 1700s, they carried a bag with everything they needed called a kit bag, and then caboodle. I thought that was going to be caboodle, but it's a kit bag. I don't really want to read the whole paragraph.
Yeah, it honestly.
So we'll go with the bag. Yeah, it's like a soldier's bag, and then all your stuff, your whole estate.
Yeah, I want the bag. I want the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, that's fine by me. I was gonna say I know that I want to use this on another show, but it's going to be out of context, and nobody's going to understand it. And all I'm going to do is get made fun of for being from South Dakota. I can already read the future. That's literally all that's going to happen.
Well, why am I using this word then?
I don't know. It's because you are beautiful and cultured, whereas I am a backwoods boy. I suppose would be the right way of putting it.
Maybe it's one of my previous lives. I was there in 18th
Tyler,
century
I don't
England
actually think that about myself. I'm saying that that's the impression that I would give off because somebody would be like, Eric just said kit and caboodle.
Well, watch Live Before Lock tonight to see if Greg busts on you for dropping a kit and caboodle reference at some point in the show.
You pulled the Dutch version? Is that what you're saying, Ty? Man, Tyler needs producer Cam because this guy wants to talk so badly at certain moments. He needs to because we spend 5 minutes deciphering his head nods and his shakes and his. He's like the Kermit thing.
He is a very opposite. He's saying it's a boat and like a movable house. It's like a boathouse.
Oh, that'd be sick. I want that kit and caboodle.
Live in a boat one day. That'll be a win. And then Steven says you caboodle with your significant other. Rim shot.
Yeah, Stephen Leibowitz knows exactly what I'm talking about. Greg would just, if I said kit and caboodle, it would become an hour-long segment on the Deeper Dive or the Live Before Lock show.
It already has here, so why not? Go for it.
Hey,
shooting guards. Fun. James Harden, $44. We talked about it a little bit at the top, like how much do you get to James Harden tonight? He's maybe not a lock button guy, but how much you like what you're looking at? First game back, first game with a new team. There are some unknowns here, but only $44.
You get to him a lot. You play him a lot. You play him and Devin Booker a lot. I don't really know what else to say. I mean, $44 for James Harden is not correct. And you can put him in any situation. Like obviously you have Tobias Harris there, not just Joel Embiid. So it's like 2.5 guys compared to the big three that he had there in Brooklyn. But James Harden is one of the best fantasy point per minute producers that we've seen over the last 3-4 years. And sure, Russell Westbrook's seen regression. There's been no regression in James Harden's game when he's interested. And I remember watching that Phoenix game where I told Ryan that night, I was like, he's leaving. Like this is exactly what we saw in Houston, because he goes from being a guy who puts up 60 plus routinely, even alongside Kevin Durant, to 27.4, played the most uninteresting 37 minutes in back-to-back games leading into that. I think that's going to reduce his rostership here a little bit. Obviously, everybody knows that he's playing. Everybody's interested in watching it, but right now, the rostership isn't there, and we'll see kind of where it ends and lands as we get closer to lock. Obviously, he's not going to be 0.1%. That's going to be something that changes drastically, but $44 is just not correct for his ability, for what he can do on a basketball floor. And he goes into that category of guys who can get there in a multitude of ways. It doesn't have to just be scoring. He rebounds the ball at a high clip. He obviously will be the catalyst offensively here. Sorry, rip Tyrese Maxey. You were never really a distributor to begin with, but James Harden is just going to get everybody going here, averaging 22.5, 10 and 8.5 on the season. So like, I see nothing to shy me away from a sub $50 tag on Yahoo of James Harden.
I know we'll get into his teammates in other positions, but while we're talking about the Sixers integrating James Harden, who wins, who loses here? Is Joel Embiid, would you say, probably not affected all that much? And then someone like Tobias Harris could see his usage drop. What are you expecting to see as far as the other Sixers go with Harden added to the mix now?
I mean, this is they went from not having Ben Simmons playing. So like it went from a net zero for Joel Embiid to adding one of the best fantasy players on planet Earth to his team. So it has to hurt him. Like I see no way around it that Joel Embiid is going to be affected from a fantasy. Now, his ceiling will still remain. Joel Embiid will have games where he goes out and puts up 40, 15, and 5 and does ridiculous things. And he's playing for an MVP. You know, I think he's basically gone out and said that he wants to win the MVP. But James Harden is just such a good fantasy point producer that it makes it almost impossible for me to imagine a scenario where that doesn't drastically affect Joel Embiid. Now, you know, we'll see where that rostership ends up on him. This center position is Garbaggio, and you could have a clear-cut guy on Yahoo and Pascal Siakam who could kind of bolster up the board if there's no Fred VanVleet. But like Joel Embiid, $54 is the most overpriced stud, and I don't think it's remotely close. So looking at shooting guard, yes, there are tons of good shooting guard options. We're going to talk about Devin Booker. We're going to talk about some of these cheapies. There's so many guys. And Drill and G, once again in chat, too many good shooting guard options. And Stephen Leibowitz saying there's some cheapies at shooting guard. There are definitely those. But James Harden's ceiling at $44, if you don't buy in now at reduced rostership, you're going to miss the boat when you realize that it's going to be 40 minutes of James Harden, who's a 1.3 plus fantasy point per minute producer, getting out of Brooklyn, where you had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving for half the games, and you just have James Harden on an island with Embiid.
So you're not worried about a hamstring injury?
No.
Okay.
I remember being a kid faking injuries playing soccer, you know, because it was 100 degrees out and, you know, you get the little twinge and somebody knocks you and you act like you were sniped and then you pretend like you were hurt for a second and then you're just fine. That's legitimately what James Harden's doing. He's just fine, everybody.
To be fair, they had the magic spray in soccer back then.
They did. Those are
healed you right up. All right. Devin Booker, you mentioned $38. I'll tell you, he's number one on the boom bust tool tonight. 45 plus is the projection. What do you have? 12 assists last night, filling in for Chris Paul. So he's not just a scorer now. He is distributing. He's doing everything with Chris Paul out of this lineup. I don't think that $38 price tag is going to last for long with Chris Paul out for at least another month and a half.
See, with Aaron Holiday, if he had started that game, I would have probably been around the field on Devin Booker. But as soon as Devin Booker was starting at the point, I played nearly 100%, had as much of him as possible. And if it weren't for an Anthony Edwards floor game, would have shipped everything. It was a sad time in the Lindquist household last night. But I'm looking at Devin Booker. You go right back to it. 40%. He, as you said, he's tops of the boom bust tool in terms of boom percentage, 39.43% of the time. He's outperforming statistically based numbers that we're looking for Devin Booker here. 40% ownership isn't enough on him here. James Harden and him are going to be clear priorities. That's why it's harder for me to get to Luka. I'll get to some DeJounte Murray still in terms of studs, but you got to talk about everybody all in one when you're talking about these studs, just because $50+ guys, you just can't get to them very often when you have two players that are sub 50 here and one that's sub 40 here in Devin Booker that just make all the sense in the world to jam in as much as possible. So shooting guard, yes, there are some cheap options to get to. There are some guys that we can surely take shots on. I love Tyrese Halliburton, $34. He's sub 20%. You're not going to get that opportunity against OKC very often. Talk about distribution. This guy is going to be a $40+ player on Yahoo very, very soon in his new situation. Jalen Suggs, I don't want to be taking that shot, but like we have some other cheapies we can surely be going to. And for me, Devin Booker, though, $38, just a cut above the rest. And I'm going to put James Harden in there too. I know that sounds controversial, but you want to be early on these kind of things because if you don't play him tonight at $44 because of quote unquote uncertainty, you might just miss the boat because as soon as he puts up 60, everybody's going to be there and there's going to be no benefiting again.
It's worth the shot.
Yes.
You get the 40 minutes of James Harden, like you talked about, and maybe there was no hamstring injury. He's ready to go, rested up, and ready to play 40 minutes and show what he can do. So, a little bit of a show me game for James Harden there in Philadelphia.
My favorite co-host.
I'll back you up on that.
Let's go.
Jalen Suggs, even against the Rockets, just not happening. Okay.
Yeah, it's strange. So again, if RJ Hampton doesn't play, maybe I get to a little bit here. He had been looking pretty decent here of late. He's been starting now for the last duration of time since the middle of January there again, after being out, kind of getting himself back into game shape. And he's looked really, really good. Looked like the guy that they thought that they were getting out of Gonzaga coming into the break. But I'm looking at paying up at shooting guard. I'm going to be paying down a lot at the forward spots. And I think Devin Booker, Tyrese Halliburton, and of course, James Harden. How many times can we possibly say his name today? You're going to hear it a lot more, I'm sure, on the other shows. But I find Jalen Suggs to just not be a guy that I have to land on very often at $22. I don't know if 40 necessarily even does it for me here at this position. I think I need a lot more than that. I would be more inclined to go to Gary Trent. And I know that seems strange, but $3 more there. I'm assuming Fred VanVleet is not playing here today. He was basically doing a glorified walking up and down the court at the All-Star game. Looked a little bit gimpy. Same kind of thing, where Chris Paul, they just basically made a glorified appearance there. Gary Trent has been an offensive catalyst, and positionally, he'll be starting at the point guard position more than likely in the event that you don't have Fred VanVleet there. They end up bringing in Precious Achiuwa to play the 5. Pascal moves down to the 4, so on and so forth in his absence, rather than putting a point guard in there. So you're looking at him having some ball handling responsibilities. And this is a Charlotte matchup that cannot be overstated how good it is. Top 3 in terms of pace. You've got a massive implied team total, 114 for them, a lot higher for a team that generally plays slower in pace. I think all the boxes are checked to be going towards these Toronto guys that have more of the secure minutes, him, Pascal Siakam, because the game environment is just too good to pass up.
Anyone else at shooting guard?
People are talking about the cheapies. I'm assuming that they're talking about maybe Lonnie Walker, somebody who's played 30, 26, and 28 minutes off the bench here. He's $11, somebody you can go to. Terrence Mann, you can definitely fire up as well. $17 going up against a putrid Lakers team in the late night hammer. Plays some backup point, has been starting the last 4 coming into break. I think the Clippers have kind of found something in this rotation. They've won 3 of 4, lost to a good Phoenix team in the middle of that stretch with Terrence Mann here in the starting lineup. Very serviceable. He's on the floor playing the point guard backup role when Reggie Jackson isn't there. He obviously starts alongside Reggie Jackson in these scenarios, but sub $20, he's a guy that I definitely have circled. Doesn't project out phenomenally well, but there's a definite ceiling. We saw 46.4 against Golden State, and defensively, that's a much worse spot than this is. Just in terms of ceiling, sub $20, I prefer both of them to a more popular Devin Vassell. He's been the starter. I think he'll be somebody that people try to rely on. 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer. Washington, it's a good spot, but I just feel more inclined to go to Gary Trent if I'm going to go into that mid-range, or dropping down to Terrence Mann. If not, Devin Booker, clear and away, going to be the most popular play on the slate.
Yeah, and Vassell, $17 tonight. But as you mentioned, this is a spot at shooting guard. You're looking to pay up on James Harden, on Devin Booker. So that shooting guard position, just all beer and Skittles. Shooting guard. Beer
and Skittles? The kit and caboodle?
Yeah, well, you got me on this idiom site now, so I'm gonna try to work in some new.
All right, I'm so here for it. You have no idea.
Would you have beer and Skittles?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I just know Pepto and Pepsi. No.
We partner with Yahoo Fantasy this NBA season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below, deposit, and play. That's it. Then it's beer and Skittles, baby. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process, email support@awesemo.com. We'll get you all set up. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, which will be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's NBA $50,000 baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Small forward led by LeBron, $54. LeBron has the Q tag tonight.
He always has the Q tag.
He does always have the Q tag. It's a big capital Q this time, maybe.
This is the site I'm the least interested in playing LeBron because it's strict positionality. If this were DraftKings FanDuel, I think I will definitely be playing some, just because it's easy to. Oh, it's not easy. I can maneuver my way out of shares of LeBron if I need to as the night progresses, if we don't have news. Now, if we get the news before lock that he's in or out, I think you can definitely viably go there at $54 against a Clippers team. 111 Vegas implied total here. He's one of the best players of all time, arguably the greatest player of all time. Don't at me, but LeBron James with no Anthony Davis is a little bit different. I mean, he's been around a 1.45 fantasy point per minute producer as is. Rebounding rate goes up, assist rate stays about the same. We're looking at LeBron, though, being a guy that you would want to play on other sites. $54, though, I look at him as a luxury item. You could definitely get to a little bit, but this is definitely out of the three main sites, the one that I'm the least intrigued to get to LeBron and take that shot. If you get there, small forward, he's going to project out better by 12 fantasy points, 13 fantasy points than everybody else. But with the shooting guard position as strong as it is at the top end for me, with point guard and DeJounte Murray, LaMelo Ball as guys in tournaments I want to prioritize, LeBron just kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
In the small forward position, I mean, it drops quick. You go all the way down to $39 for Jimmy Butler. And then beyond that, $28 for Anthony Edwards. He is the third most expensive on this board. Did he have a bad night last night, Eric?
Yes, he had a bad night, Pete McCarthy.
Okay. How bad was it?
It was very bad. 23. Let me find out.
You going back to him?
Yeah, I hate myself. 23.3 fantasy points on Yahoo. I had the absolute stone cold nuts with that idiot. And I just had him in way too many lineups. I felt too confident coming off of the break, and he looked hurt kind of towards the tail end of it. Played 32 minutes the last two. Malik Beasley came in pretty early for him. You only played like 4.5 or 5 minutes to start off his rotation in the first quarter, then got pulled. But this is Anthony Edwards, where if he goes out and has his signature, I'm going to be the best player on the floor tonight kind of guy at $28. The ownership isn't there because he's been very, very bad of late. You just have to look at his box score and understand he is as volatile a piece as you will ever find. But in tournaments, that's kind of what you're looking for, is guys who can pop and put up 60 at low rostership. And Anthony Edwards, it's hard for me not to once again prioritize him here going up against Philadelphia now. Matisse Thybulle, I'm expecting to be somebody who starts alongside Harden, bring a little bit of defensive prowess into that unit, mainly because they don't need a ton of shooters around. They've got Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. They're going to play a lot of pick and roll, James Harden. That seems like a good way to run your offense and then just kind of do whatever else you want. But Matisse Thybulle ends up being that fifth starter alongside Maxey, Harden, him, yada, yada. Anthony Edwards, $28, might be a little less appealing, but got him projected for 34 minutes. Did not play well last night, no doubt about it, but I think we go back to the well here in this spot.
And I like that. You have the process. You believe in your process, what you saw yesterday, and you go right back to it. Maybe not to the same degree. If you saw the minutes diminish a little bit there, he doesn't look 100%, but not much has changed in 24 hours.
If you were 20% rostered, this would be a different conversation.
Yeah.
You would be like, oh, I have all these concerns, but those concerns are alleviated when you know the guy has a 60-point ceiling and he's not being rostered by anybody.
Sure. Mid-tier Marcus Morris Sr., $19. He scored 20 plus in 6 of his last 8. Buddy Hield, $18, still relatively cheap. He has the ability of hitting a bunch of threes, getting things fired up. I guess Horton Tucker at the Lakers, maybe depending on LeBron to some degree, only $12 there. Where are we looking elsewhere? Because you could save some money at this position tonight.
We could. And also, there's one play that's currently projected for 0.1% rostership, and I get it. It's a Miami matchup. It's the Knicks. Everything is awful, but RJ Barrett is $27. And RJ Barrett with no Kemba Walker there for the rest of the season has a ceiling. And it doesn't really matter what the matchup is. We've seen 50-plus point upside against the Lakers for him, against the Clippers, against some really solid basketball teams. I don't think this Kemba, obviously it's adjusted for Alec Burks. He's gaining 20% rostership here, but you're telling me that nobody is going to click on RJ Barrett. I know it's a terrible defensive spot here. I know it's, but it's at home against Miami here. And you're going to give him free reign to play 40 minutes here, 38, 40 minutes, more than likely in a competitive game. We haven't projected on the lower end, 34, 35 minutes. And that's just fine. But I mean, the guy doesn't have Kemba Walker there for, however many minutes they'd play alongside each other. That really mutes his production. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to me that we're just going to value Alec Burks exponentially more. And I get it. He's a good play, $14, but he's also 20% rostered. I want to take some shots on RJ Barrett if he's going to legitimately be less than 1%. So that's one guy to kind of throw out there. from that mid range that I wanted to talk about, because we're trying to win tournaments. And, if you're trying to win the $12, 5,000 entries, you don't have to get that different, but that's one piece of differentiation that could really work out for you.
Well, how about that? I mean, look, Barrett's coming off a sprained ankle. We'll see if he's able to go tonight. What about, we talked about the risk with James Harden, right? You don't look at the hamstring as a big deal, but there is some risk there with Harden. Does that affect, would you pair Barrett with Harden, or is that something that there's a little too much risk with those kinds of guys? Is that something you consider? No,
I'd probably consider putting them in more lineups together than not, just because, if you have that one guy who puts up 10 or 20 and is limited, well, that lineup's dead as it is. And sure, I'm the guy who tries to grind out min cashes when things are going terrible early on too. Look at the timing of these games. I mean, we have that game locking at 7:30. You have a lot of these games in the evening window. You can kind of react to how your lineups are doing throughout the night there. If you are on some Clippers pieces that are extremely popular, obviously Reggie Jackson is the most popular play, I think, on the entire slate. So if you need to find pivots off of him, you can kind of do it. You can maneuver off of some of these pieces of chalk. Marcus Morris, you have Amir Coffey, you have some viable plays at low rostership in this evening window. So if it's not going well, if RJ Barrett is limited with that ankle, if he gets ruled in, starts, and then is limited, or James Harden, is playing limited minutes, and those lineups are dead, find ways off of Reggie Jackson, find ways off of Marcus Morris, find ways off of the more popular pieces as much as you humanly possibly can. And now it is harder. You have a flex spot, which is useful on Yahoo, but for the most part, because of the strict positionality of it, there's no dual positional eligibility like there is on DraftKings and FanDuel. It's going to be harder, but that's also going to be more of a reason of why you need to do it.
Okay. One more point on RJ Barrett. Derrick Rose did return to practice. He's doubtful tonight, expected to play on Sunday. So this is more of a live before a lock thing, maybe, but obviously Derrick Rose would take away some of that advantage of Kemba not being there for Barrett. Would he make him unplayable?
Yeah, I wouldn't take that shot if you had Derrick Rose there. I mean, Derrick Rose, I just saw was doubtful, and I talked about him a little bit last night. It was nice to see him practicing, and it's one of those things. Kemba's not like a bad teammate. Obviously, we saw earlier this season when he got benched and they pulled him out of the rotation, and then he got inserted because of all the injuries and COVID and all the other things that were going on. Played phenomenally well there for that stretch over Christmas. It's like, I've been so invested in Kemba Walker, and I love him as a player so much that I got completely burned because I faded him on Christmas, and he puts up a 10, 10, and 10 triple double basically. And it was the most painful thing ever because I could have just gotten to even on him, but he was like 50% rostered. There's no real advantage to going his direction. And the floor has definitely proven to be there here in the last couple months of the Kemba Walker experiment, but he's definitely being sat now, knowing that Derrick Rose is going to come back, knowing that this is kind of a lost season for the Knicks, and they just want to keep him healthy. He's had some health problems, obviously, in the past year, and so just kind of put him in bubble wrap, allow him to continue his career elsewhere while they focus on Quentin Grimes, focus on Derrick Rose getting healthy, and Julius Randle being the centerpiece here.
Anyone else at small forward, or is that the whole shebang?
It's it. Oh, there you go again. OG Anunoby, $22. I know it's been very, very volatile of late. I mean, we're talking extremely. He's put up 14 and 9.7 his last two, but I don't really care. I'm not a box score guy who's going to go completely nuts in that department. This is a Charlotte matchup. He's projected for 34 minutes. If there is no Fred VanVleet, you play a lot of OG Anunoby at $22. It just makes all the sense in the world. It is every combination you want. It's low rostership. It's a guy that people are nervous to click on. He checks all the boxes for like a phenomenal tournament play. Fire him up at will if there's no VanVleet.
Get it done at small forward. By the way, shebang, first used by Civil War soldiers to mean a rustic dwelling or hut. And shout out to Steven in the chat for that one. It is not a Ricky Martin song.
I feel like I'm in a museum. No, I said it is. No, she bangs. She bangs. She bangs. Oh, the way she moves. She moves. Oh, she looks like a flower, but she stings like a bee. Something in history. There it is.
Yeah. Tyler, clip that and immediately throw that on every social media site that you can.
Maybe don't. Maybe don't.
You're going to have to take care of Tyler after the show, I think.
This would be like the 498th worst thing that got clipped of me and put on Twitter.
I don't know.
Just saying.
That's pretty
Tyler is 100% in agreement on that. He's like, yeah, no. Kicker of what?
The best of Eric Lindquist hits. Power forward. You got a Nick at the top, Julius Randle, $39. You go down to Kyle Kuzma, who's always kind of all over the place. Tobias Harris, one obviously affected by James Harden being here. You got Wendell Carter going up against the Houston Rockets. What do we make with this power forward position?
Oh, it's fun, isn't it?
No,
you just play Jackson Hayes and you move on with your day. This is the best piece of chalk here on the slate. He's going to be in the starting lineup. It sounds like going forward for this team, $10. He's $10. I'm locking him in. I see no way around it. I'll play some Rui Hachimura as well. I'll play the combination of a $10 and an $11 guy, but this is the most obvious punt position that there ever was, that there ever will be, and I'm just going to do it. Kyle Kuzma, $33 is definitely viable. I'm much more inclined to go his direction than Wendell Carter, considering Wendell Carter's a little bit more rostered, 28 and 29.6%. But for me, Jackson Hayes is just... it's too easy. He's a fantasy point per minute producer. He's starting. Phoenix is on a back-to-back. He's going to draw, I guess, not Cameron Johnson. He's going to get Mikal Bridges or something. I mean, that's like a 6-inch height disparity between the two. Jackson Hayes out of Texas was a center. They're playing him at the 4 alongside Jonas Valanciunas, and it's been going well. Like, it's legitimately worked out for them. And I think he's a guy who carries a lot of upside. Only played 26 minutes, still put up 24.2 Yahoo fantasy points last game out with 5 fouls in that start. He got in massive foul trouble, still found a way to just smash this $10 tag. It's the most broken tag here. He's the easiest plug and play we have on the entire slate.
Man, I was planning on spending a few minutes at this position.
No. Well, we can. We totally can.
No, we don't have to.
No.
I got lots of idioms, bro. I mean, we can talk.
Rui played 27 minutes off the bench, and I have to say, it's nice to see Rui get 27 minutes off the bench. Thomas Bryant has been on bubble wrap, like just glorified bubble wrap here for a while. Kristaps Porzingis continues to be out here once they acquired him here. And Thomas Bryant's questionable. So if Thomas Bryant doesn't play, there's a non-zero chance that they go to Rui Hachimura instead of Daniel Gafford as a starter. So I'm looking at that situation very intently. So Rui Hachimura would become a guy who vaults up my board. It's just nice to see 27 minutes now on the table for him. We saw him do that on February 7th. He's done it now again, February 17th. I'm looking forward to playing a lot of him in the event that you get no Thomas Bryant. And even if you do, he's viable at $11, but still Jackson Hayes, the definite priority, regardless of rostership.
Lock it up. $10. Get it done.
Suck
Jackson
it up. Hey, also Stephen Leibowitz, I can sing whatever I want. I can sing and do whatever I want. YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Tim Johnson. Yeah. YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Neither of those are domains for me either. I need to work on that part of my game.
Well, that was it. You just clip that, you put it on TikTok, and then you watch it soar, baby. No? Okay. That's fine.
Maybe
I don't have to do it.
I just had to freeze. It was fun.
Odd Shopper. It's good stuff over there.
Thank you.
Be sure to check it out. Use it for your player props. You can use it for daily fans, get an idea of what Vegas might be looking at. Maybe they have Jackson Hayes over under 10.5 points, 8.5 rebounds. You're like, you know what? For $10 on Yahoo, that's probably a pretty good guy to play. You can check out the Awesemo projections alongside it. You can see where the best odds are. It's a tremendous resource. Check it out. Check it out over there at Odds Shopper. Center, Joel Embiid. You're not a fan tonight.
All right. I knew we were going to spend some more time on center. Again, power forward, the most garbage position. And if you want to take some shots on, just to kind of round that out, Julius Randle, have fun. If you want to take some shots, sub $20 Jayshawn Tate, have fun. For me, just play Jackson Hayes. And again, I hate to be the guy who just gives you that. And if you're looking for a pivot, there's Rui Hachimura. That's all you have.
Sometimes that's the best advice, though. We don't have to go through if you're saying there's one play on the board. Yeah. That makes it a lot easier for everybody, right? Lock it in, lock it up. Let's go.
Here's Eric's big stand here on the day. I'm going to have, I last night was pretty sold on playing Joel Embiid. And I think I still probably will on DraftKings or FanDuel a little bit, because I don't want to just have him go out, be Super Saiyan and not have access to it. I'm going to have 0% Joel Embiid on Yahoo. $54 with James Harden being inserted into the lineup. From a real basketball perspective, this team got a lot better. From a fantasy perspective, I do not expect Joel Embiid to be 1.65 fantasy points per minute. He's been north of 1.75 for the last month. I mean, he has been on an absolute tear, and there's no denying that. But I think the tear stops in a road matchup with James Harden running the point. It just is going to be harder for him to achieve those super ceiling spots. And Andre Drummond being shipped out is definitely a good thing, I think, as well, in terms of what his minutes could be. So if you're still trying to find reasons to play him there, but Paul Millsap, I think, actually enters this rotation and is going to be, a guy who plays north. He played 9 and 11 minutes now, his 2 games since joining Philadelphia. I think he's going to kind of get north to around 15, 16. And you get Willie Cauley-Stein in there as well, who's a new acquisition that they got for a 10-day contract. I think you're looking at limiting Joel Embiid's playing time and maybe staggering a little bit more here with James Harden, not necessarily always having them on the floor together. And that just brings minutes concern into play. You want him healthy for the postseason. You made this push to get him into the postseason. Now, if he wants to be MVP and he wants to go completely nuts in 30 minutes, 32 minutes, there's no doubt he's a phenomenal center play. But my favorite center play on the day, and I don't think it's remotely close, is Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam's $41, and this is barring Fred VanVleet being out, but the guy is ridiculous. He's not the 1.15 fantasy point per minute producer that he's been on the season here. This just becomes a completely different guy who does everything for this basketball team, playing 40-ish minutes, going up against a Charlotte backcourt of Montrezl Harrell and Mason Plumlee. Like, this cannot be overstated. I legitimately think he outperforms Joel Embiid raw fantasy points in this game. Done.
Wow. And just to clarify, that's assuming that VanVleet does not
Assuming that VanVleet's out. Yes, that's the assumption I have right now.
So you love Pascal Siakam tonight.
Absolutely love.
$41. You're getting north of Joel Embiid. That's a big plus. Where do you think James Harden hurts Joel Embiid from a fantasy perspective? Just the volume of shots? Is that
everything?
Everything.
James Harden does everything. Like, he averages 20, 10, and 8. Like, there's no planet where a guy is going to play 35, 40 minutes, if James Harden's good to go here, where he plays this allotment of minutes and doesn't completely affect everybody on the court to a drastic extent. And not only that, but think about this. You're going from a net zero. So you literally had Tyrese Maxey running the point, and Joel Embiid had free reign and all the usage and every opportunity, 40+% usage. You put James Harden in, and sure, he's going to create and do different things to maybe set him up for easier looks or, whatever else, but it affects him across the board. And not that Joel Embiid was some major distributor of the basketball, but in recent games, they've been playing through him 5, 6, 10 assists. And that is just going to dissipate into thin air. It's not going to be a part of his role going forward for this team. It's just not. So I just have so many question marks about the way this situation could unfold that at $54, this is what I'm saying, is that because of the price that exists there, because of that number, it's impossible for me to want to roster him when for $13 less, I get the center focal point against a Charlotte team in Pascal Siakam, the offensive catalyst, the guy who's going to have to do everything. He's going to play 40-ish minutes. It's such an easy pivot for me that it's just nonsensical for me to even try to make Embiid a thing.
And you love Harden tonight, and he's $44. So you're saving 10 on Joel Embiid there as well. If you love Siakam tonight, you're saving some money there. So the cost obviously factors into all of this as well. Center position, otherwise, Karl Anthony Towns, the 3-point sharpshooters there at $41. You got Bam Adebayo at $35, Christian Wood. And then there are some value guys tonight, but that mid tier, I mean, I know you're on Siakam tonight, but anybody in the mid tier that you're eyeing?
Yeah. So Gobert, $38. That's going to be a pass for me. We've seen him play a lot fewer minutes the last two. One, he got ejected, but then he only played 28 minutes in a competitive game against the Lakers. He's also kind of in that bubble wrap category. They just got everybody back here other than Joe Ingles, who's, shipped off to Portland now because he tore his ACL and it was just a contract move. But Joel Embiid, $54. It's going to be a pass for me. Gobert, $38 is going to be a pass. I can land on a little Karl Anthony Towns there in the expensive range of guys. I'm okay trying to take some shots on that. We know the kind of upside that exists. Projected around the same here at Awesemo for Pascal Siakam. But as it stands right now, do we have Fred VanVleet. So we do have him in the projections here. That's 36 minutes and a ton of fantasy production that dissipates into thin air in the event that he's out there. So that's what I'm saying, where I have legitimately Pascal projected for 52 fantasy points as it stands right now. And that's just barring Fred VanVleet being out, because I have him out. Awesemo does not. So Karl Anthony Towns is just fine there. He would be comparable fantasy points in the event that Fred VanVleet is in there. So I'm fine with either one of them there. The guy that I really want to talk about is Zubats. And he was my first 100K win. So I love this man. I will always love this man. He helped me jumpstart not just fantasy sports here, but a lot of parts of my life. So I love Zubats. But against the Clippers here, or against the Lakers, there's question marks I have about what that starting rotation will be if LeBron James is in. Like, do they go back to LeBron at the 5? That could create some interesting problems here. I think he is a very interesting play, because if you get Dwight Howard starting, I want a lot of Zubats. If you don't get Dwight Howard starting and you get LeBron James in, there's just a lot of question marks that I would have about how many minutes they would have Zubats out there. Robert Covington's played a more pronounced role. I could see them starting him. I think they start Zubats regardless, but maybe playing a little bit more of Covington in the event that they play some small ball there. This is just a very boom bust option for me and Zubats, who has played phenomenally well here towards the end of the break, really starting to come into his own. Put Terrence Mann in the starting lineup. That's worked out really well for this team as well. So I like what I'm seeing out of the Clippers. I just want to be very aware of what that starting lineup is for the Lakers. So I wanted to put that, because I'm seeing his name in chat here now too. I love the play if you get Dwight Howard starting. I hate the play if you don't.
All right, so keep an eye on that in the lineups. Unfortunately, again, that's the late game, so I might not have that information at lock, but that's why keep it locked to Deeper Dive and all that if we get any hints throughout the day, and we'll see how all that shakes out. You're always tempted to go up against the Rockets with anybody. Mo Bamba, $14. You talk about how much you like Cole Anthony for the Magic. Are there other Magic to jump in on here? Is Bamba on that bandwagon, so to speak?
Mo Bamba, Mo Bamba. See, there you go, Leibowitz. See what I can do.
2 different songs.
$14. Here we're going. Against Houston, against Christian Wood. I once had a girl, and should I say she once had me, right? Isn't it good? Roster Christian Wood. That's something like that. I tried Beatles, but here we go. Mo Bamba, he's fine. $14. Super cheap. We know the kind of fantasy point per minute producer he can be. Always a minutes question mark here with him. Looked like they were just kind of going exclusively to Wendell Carter there. And then right before the break, got some blowout run, lost by 21 there. And, he was serviceable there. We've seen some major explosive games from him. So at $14, there's nothing I can say. He's a decent play. I probably prefer Montrezl Harrell, but so does the field. $17 for him. Played 43 minutes against Miami. I don't really see that going forward. 43 minutes, but a guy that's definitely going to be a part of this rotation going forward. And, it seems like PJ Washington just kind of fallen out of favor now with this team since his acquisition. 48 minutes there for PJ Washington, but I'm saying that he's been the starter there, but it's such a question mark for Mason Plumlee, how any of this can really work out. Mason Plumlee was the guy who I meant falling out of favor there. Only played 14 minutes and they went exclusively to PJ Washington and him there. But just kind of be paying attention to that, because if he ends up being, in fact, the most rostered guy, I think there's just so many other good center plays that we can take shots on. Nobody that's like above and away, a clear cut above the rest, but it's a target rich environment now with DeAndre Ayton at $25. Pascal Siakam, my favorite guy. That's not really going to change between here and lock unless you get Fred VanVleet in.
So there's no quite Jackson Hayes at the center position tonight? There's
no Jackson. Well, he's power forward on Yahoo. He's center a lot of other places, or power forward and center. So do what you want. He's a glorified power forward. I mean, he's definitely a center. It's just such a smash if you get him continuing to start for this team.
Yeah, you have glorified Jackson Hayes tonight. That is for sure. So lock him in, lock him up. Power forward position, nice and simple. As far as center, you like Pascal Siakam. We'll keep an eye on Fred VanVleet, whether or not he is in. And of course, we've got a lot more NBA content still to come with NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock starting up at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock Eastern time, the NBA props show as well. So a lot still to come here. Is it 5 o'clock or 5:30 tonight?
It is at, well, I'm on the West Coast, so like time is irrelevant. It starts at 6. It should be 6 p.m. Eastern time for Live Before Lock. So we have the Locks Before Lock show, which I think you guys should all check out. That's been a lot of fun. I've been putting in some work for that one. I'm not on it today, but yesterday went just crazy with Savoca. We were smashing on the old. Can I say another site? I'm not going to say another site while we're on the Yahoo show, but places you can play props for money. Not just sports books. It was a very, very profitable night for us.
Well, that's good news. Made up for Anthony Edwards, who you're going right back to, which I love. I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
Phillip Rivers gift.
Keep poking the bear.
It's all right. I have a literal bear if you want him.
Yeah. Let's start poking. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows. DFS offers giveaways and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button. Maybe the bear will come out. The deeper dive, Eric will be back with you then at 6 o'clock Eastern time. NHL strategy show coming up at 2 o'clock Eastern. You got the Prize Picks NBA show at 3:30 Eastern. Locks Before Lock at 4:30 Eastern on the Odds Shopper channel. This has been Yahoo NBA Live. I hope we learned a little something about the NBA, about words from the 1700s and expressions that nobody uses except me. It's kind of what it is. Eric Lindquist, pleasure. I'm Pete McCarthy. Take care, guys.
Always, bud.